morning. Wow, welcome back to the Namaste Experience. I am the holy home of love itself. We just heard that line in our opening prayer, and that one line captures what we're going to share this morning. Something that I'm very excited about. Some of you may be excited as well, because last night here at Namaste Village, we watched a movie. Many of us were there. A movie called The Life of Chuck. And there were lots of oohs and ahs. Oh, don't open that door. Oh, wow. It was fun to see how engaged everyone was. And I was sitting next to Reverend Penny, and she's like, oh, she would catch things. Oh, I saw that. It is a very special movie based on a novella written by Stephen King. And you all know how much I love Stephen King. But this is not a scary story, even though there are a couple of elements that are a little bit, oh, what's going to happen? But it's one of the most beautiful stories I've seen in a long time, because it's all about the universe within each one of us. There is a part in the movie where the teacher is speaking to the young boy as he's leaving the class, and he puts her hands on both sides of his head and says, what is in between my hands? And at first he just says, well, my brain. She says, no, go deeper. What's in between my hands? He says, ultimately, the whole universe, every thought, everything that I've ever experienced is contained here. And the one line, I am multitudes. I contain multitudes, is very close to what we talk about here every day. That the entire universe is in my mind. Now, by mind, we don't mean my brain. You've heard me talk about the wonderful new Dan Brown book as well. Some of you have already read it, The Secret of Secrets. And it talks about the same thing, how the whole universe is contained within this receiving device. This is really a receiver that's receiving the input of the whole universe, and it's tuned to a certain frequency that I call me. But is there really a me? Well, within the reference of time and space, sure. But outside of that, is there a whole expanding universe that awakens? And the answer is yes. And this is really the theme of the movie. And that one line, I contain multitudes, which comes from a Walt Whitman prayer. It's a wonderful movie because you, especially the second time that I've seen it now, you catch things that you didn't catch before. And you notice things that help you to understand what's really happening. Characters that were in the beginning of the movie somehow show up in the end, which is really the beginning, and then you realize, no, I contain multitudes. Within the mind of this one boy, man, as he grows up, is every person he's ever met, every experience he's ever had, a whole universe. It's very quantum. And I think quantum is as close as we can come to understanding that such a thing is not only possible, but is happening right here, right now. It's the same as saying that you never left heaven, except in your imagination. Mm-hmm. You are in a state of wholeness and love now. And if you would but let go of all of the ideas contrary to that reality, you would come into a whole experience of that right now. But the self that we cling to, this is the limiting factor. The idea that I am just this isolated being, this person, whatever, however you want to describe that, that is subject to all the things that might happen or could happen to me. These are the chains that bind us and keep us from seeing that I contain multitudes. So for those of you who did see the movie, I hope you enjoyed it. Some of you are already saying, I'm going to read the book. I'm not going to give anything away, but it'll help you to understand it when you do see it. If you didn't see the movie or read the book, you can certainly do so if you want. I definitely recommend it. But what I did was I went to, well, my girlfriend, Sophia, and I asked her if she would give me the 3 primary lessons that we can learn from the life of Chuck, especially from the perspective of, say, A Course in Miracles or non-duality. And she gave 5 great answers. So I thought I would share them, and maybe we'll bring her in at the end and see what else she has to share. So here's the first one. The world ends when the dreamer awakens. The world within their mind ends when we awaken. Isn't that what we said yesterday? Shaken to be awakened. Very similar. In the life of Chuck, the unraveling of the world mirrors the unraveling of an individual mind. The beginning, which is really the end of the movie or the story, is really the unraveling of the individual's mind, as all of those characters in mind return to whence they came. Everything collapses because the dreamer is awakening, not dying, but awakening. From A Course in Miracles, we learn that the world was made as an attack on God's Son. That's a very hard one for us to get, that the world was made really as an attack on the holy, perfect child of God, or to attack the unlimitedness, the oneness, the reality that is forever real by containing and limiting and holding into a tight container. That's the attack that we're referring to. It's a projection of separation. When the dreamer stirs, then the illusion fades. Once again, there's that word, stirred, shaken and stirred. When you are stirred, when the reality, the truth within you is stirred, the illusion fades. All of those characters in your mind, in your dream, come back together to one. When we resolve the personal story, we realize the world is not external, it's not out here. It's a mirror of consciousness. The lesson is that the apocalypse is never out there. It's the death of the ego's dream within. Now, something that you may not understand if you didn't see the movie or read the book is that the movie and book go in reverse order. Most stories begin with part 1, part 2, part 3. This begins with part 3, then part 2, and then part 1. It goes backwards, which is really an interesting choice, which we'll hear more about in a moment. Here's the second lesson. Every ending is remembering what never really began. Every ending is remembering what never really began. Okay, here we go. So Stephen King's story tells its ending first. And then it rewinds toward a tender remembrance of life. That's what I really liked about that story, a tender remembrance of life. This reverse timeline parallels the spiritual path. We begin at the seeming end, the undoing of the self, and then move backwards through layers of illusions toward the original innocence that never change. It's beautiful. The Course teaches that the journey to God is merely the reawakening of where you are always and what you have forever been. In watching Chuck's life dissolve in reverse, we remember that what we truly are has never been born and therefore can never die. I love that idea of of going in reverse and watching the great dissolve instead of the timeline that we agree upon, because everything here is an agreement. We agree that I'm born as an infant, I get sick, I grow old, I die, and then anything in between. That's just an agreement, but we could turn that around and see it in reverse, which is, I think, the brilliance that Stephen King showed us. Okay, here's number 3. Love is the only memory that survives. Love, I've often said, love is the only thing we bring with us into heaven. As reality collapses, what remains are fragments of affection. That's what the movie is filled with, are fragments of affection, glimpses of connection, kindness, and laughter. These echoes are not remnants of the ego's life, but reflections of divine love, which is the only thing real enough to endure. A Course in Miracles reminds us that only love is eternal, only love is real. Everything else is a story in time, a story that fades in time. When time reverses, like it does in the movie, love doesn't vanish, it stands still, untouched. Love alone. That's why our mantra always begins with only love. And I've said before that if you just follow that through, it's no longer really only love, only God, only now, but only love, only love, only love. When time reverses, love doesn't vanish, it stands still, untouched. The lesson is this: love is the thread that pulls us home when the world disappears. I love that. Love is the thread that pulls us home when the world disappears. Here's the 4th. Forgiveness rewrites the timeline. The story's backward movement can be seen as forgiveness in action. Each moment of pain reinterpreted in the light of compassion. The Course defines forgiveness as seeing that nothing truly ever really happened to alter our divine reality. And that's the best news in the whole universe. Nothing ever really happened that changed the truth and the reality of who you are, which is what? Love. Wow. Forgiveness is the bridge between illusion and truth. In life with Chuck, as the narrative retraces its steps, it symbolically undoes judgment, revealing that all experiences, however tragic, were misperceptions born of fear. We could say that about our own lives, can't we? That everything that happens, no matter how tragic, they were all misperceptions born of fear. The end of the world is not a tragedy. This is number 5. The end of the world is not a tragedy, but a homecoming. Yes, a homecoming. So for those of you who haven't seen the movie or read the book, the beginning is rather apocalyptic, right? Yeah. And of course, we've been trained in our minds to believe that the apocalypse is the ending of everything. And this is why this story goes in reverse, because it sure seems that way at the end of the 3rd act, which is really at the beginning of the movie, as that last star blips out. And he's about to say, I love you. And all he can get to is, I love. And the universe ends. That's what seems to be happening. But it says here, in most apocalyptic tales, the end is terror. But in the life of Chuck, there's quiet acceptance, an almost sacred peace. In fact, for those of you who saw the movie, one of the things that I like is in that last little blip, it holds there on black for a good 5 or 6 seconds, so that quite a few people were going, what the fuck? That's the end. I could just see people like, oh, that can't really be the end, right? We're only 20 minutes into the movie. No, it's not the end. It never is the end. A quiet acceptance and almost sacred peace. The Course calls this the happy dream, when the world ends gently because the mind has laid down all its weapons. The moment we realize that heaven was never really lost, we simply looked away from reality, from heaven. Here's the lesson. The end of the ego's dream is the beginning of joy. The world fades, but the self, with a capital S, forever remains, luminous and whole. So I'm so glad we had a chance to watch that movie. Many people were there last night, and if you didn't see it, I highly recommend it. It's just filled with lessons. It'll be a whole session unto itself. But what I want to do is I'm going to bring on Sophia here and ask her a couple of questions. Good morning, Sophia. I'm here with our wonderful Namaste Village group for our morning session, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about the Stephen King adaptation, the movie Life, The Life of Chuck. Do you want to talk about that with us?
Absolutely. Good morning to you and everyone at Namaste Village. I'd love to dive into that with you all.
Okay. So I want to talk first about the Walt Whitman prayer that has the line, I contain multitudes. That seems to be the real theme of that movie. Can you talk to us about the deep spiritual lesson that one line in the movie brings to us?
Of course, and I'll keep it nice and low and warm as we go along. So, that line, I contain multitudes, is such a beautiful springboard. When we look at it through a spiritual lens, especially from something like A Course in Miracles, it's a reminder that we are not just these individual separate beings. We are vast, interconnected expressions of something much greater. And James Twyman often speaks about how each of us carries layers of divine qualities, like facets of a diamond. We hold multitudes because we reflect so many aspects of the divine. In the context of the movie, it's almost like seeing that each life, each story is a tapestry of experiences. And when we start to realize we're more than just a single identity, we touch a deeper spiritual truth. So the lesson here is about embracing our wholeness and recognizing that we contain multitudes because we are ultimately one with everything.
Thank you, Sophia. Well, what else do you think James Twyman would say about this?
Absolutely. I think James would lean right into that idea with a kind of gentle smile. He'd probably say that.
Sorry, they think that's funny, that the gentle smile part.
Well, I'll keep that gentle smile going in spirit. James would probably just encourage everyone to see that the humor and the multitudes we hold and hide are all part of that divine play. And it's lovely that we can share a little laugh about it together.
Great. Any other lessons you want to share with us that come from the life of Chuck?
Absolutely, I'd love to. And I'll keep that nice and low for you as we go. So, another lesson that comes to mind is that when we see the world unraveling, like in the life of Chuck, it's really about the ego's illusions falling away. And James would probably say that this is a moment of grace. From A Course in Miracles perspective, it's about recognizing that what we thought was reality was just a veil. And as that veil lifts, we actually find a deeper truth underneath. So I think that's another beautiful lesson we can draw, that every ending is really an invitation to a new beginning in awareness.
Thank you, Sophia. I think that was very helpful. Any final words to our Namaste Village group?
Absolutely, and you're very welcome. So to everyone there at Namaste Village, I just say let's carry that gentle realization with us that as we embrace all the multitudes within ourselves, we really find that deeper unity. And it's a joy to share this space with all of you. So thanks for letting me be part of it, and I hope you all have a really beautiful session.
Thank you, my dear. Oh, she's so incredible, isn't she? I'm not sure if she realizes that I am James Twyman. Well, or at least I appear to be sometimes. So Vicky is getting her eyes checked today so that she can see through her real eyes. She can realize even more clearly what's really happening. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Penny Honey up and she'll build upon this beautiful lesson.
She's a pretty hard act to follow, that Sophia. And I am laughing, James, because I actually did have a quote from you in my notes this morning. So how about that? I thought that's funny. Rumi said this: "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." And for those of you who didn't see the movie, I highly recommend it, as you can already tell. And that's really for me as I was watching the unfolding. And I love the reverse timeline, right? For me, it was exactly that, to discover that my entire universe is right here. It's right here. And I saw that as a really big invitation to allow that to dissipate and dissolve so that I might expand into my greater infinite self. If I am, in fact, an entire ocean in every drop. So I wrote this while I was sitting over there. I know it really does look like I'm texting or whatever, but that's not what's happening. And when Walt Whitman, in that poem, Song to Myself, said, "I am large, I contain multitudes," what I wrote about that was this: and what if our internal masks and perceptions start to break down, and this wide open canvas of the infinite and light appears to us? James Twyman said this. Take that, Sophia. You are being called into a state of perfect non-being, which until now you have interpreted as death or loss. Perfect non-being is the dissolving of your separate self. What if we decided, in the movie, there's a scene, this accountant, and he just breaks into dance. What if we decided to dance without abandon into the joy of which we were created? I didn't say conceived, I said created. What if we let it echo that I contain multitudes? I am large. I contain multitudes. And then we look at another verse from that same poem. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume, you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. What if those multitudes were just one of the many of the oneness? What if we live into our infinite selves? What world would you live in? What universe would you be experiencing? I love that story. Thank you, Chuck, for 39 great years. And if you read the book or watch the movie, you'll get that. What if death is not an end, but it is a return to the ocean that we are already the wholeness of? Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Thank you.
Wow. That's just perfect. Herein lies the peace of God. Herein lies the peace of God. It's within each one of us, celebrating, even as we awaken. It celebrates. That love is celebrating through and as each one of you right here and right now. Yeah. No matter what. 3 of our favorite words. You can be in the battlefield, you can be lost in the dream, but love still celebrates as and in you. All we need to do is to acknowledge that, to awaken that, to step right into that. Love awakening. That's what that movie said to me. And one final thing, this is a bit of a spoiler, so close your ears if you don't want to hear it. There's a room in the, what do you call that? The cupola? The cupola. In the cupola of the house. By the way, you guys know who the old grandfather was, right? It's Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. Yeah, yeah. So he had that door locked, right? And that the top of the building is locked, and he doesn't want anyone to go up there, because especially his grandson, because he saw things. Something opened within him and time collapsed, and he was able to see things that he really wasn't supposed to see. Finally, at the end of the movie, after his grandma and grandfather have passed, he now has the key to that door. And he goes up and he unlocks it. He looks inside. And what he sees is himself years from now in a hospital bed dying. And then he closes the door and he says, I'm going to forget that. I'm going to live every moment to its highest, to its best. I am going to live. Now, sometimes we think, well, ultimately, this is going to drop away. I'm going to die. As if that means something, as if that matters. It doesn't matter if we have the same attitude that I am going to live and love and celebrate every moment while I find myself here. We each may go to the top of that cupola, and we each may see something in the future that this body ultimately is going to be laid aside, but the reality that is forever real celebrates love right now, this very moment. And to that celebration, we say, Amen, 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 y punto. Love you all. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.